in somber recognition of the anniversary of Roe versus Wade. And I wanted to mention that a local pro-life group, Clark County Right to Life, has organized an event to educate the citizens about this issue. It takes place on Friday the 22nd at the county courthouse steps from 1 to 2 o'clock. There's also a similar event up in Olympia on the 19th. But on this topic, I wanted to take a moment to talk about this. I urge all citizens to recognize and support the sanctity of life. Our founding fathers believed that by our very nature of being created in God's image, humans are special. And this is codified in the Declaration of Independence, where it states that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our founding fathers were not perfect, and obviously their tolerance of slavery is a black mark upon our history. They deferred that discussion for later, and in fact, the Constitution did not allow for any amendment freeing the slaves to be considered until at least 21 years later. Awkwardly, the Founding Fathers denied that the Declaration of Independence even applied to slaves. Today, I believe that we are awkwardly denying the right to life for millions of unborn men and women. In 1973, the Supreme Court of the United States issued its ruling in the case of Roe versus Wade, which struck down all anti-abortion laws in every state. Washington State has the distinction of being one of the few states that had legalized abortions prior to Roe v. Wade, which puts us in a very interesting position in Washington State. The very question of when a life begins, though, was avoided in the decision, and each person is left to answer for themselves when a life begins. Despite how polarizing the issue of abortion is, I hope that we can all agree that we are all pro-life at some point, and we are all pro-choice at some point. The question is where we draw the line. Some draw the line at conception, and some at birth, most in between. Regardless of where we draw the line, I believe it is important to contemplate the mystery of life. The contemplation should lead us to cherish and protect life. Last month, we had a passionate public involvement regarding whether we would continue funding for the West Columbia Gorge Humane Society. Special attention was paid to the fact that this shelter is a no-kill shelter. I do support humane treatments to animals. However, it's a sad statement that such support and passionate outpouring of public support for animals comes in such contrast with the state of apathy towards unborn humans who equally have done no wrong to others. The government, as stated in the Declaration of Independence, is to protect life, liberty, and property, or the pursuit of happiness, as they put it. And when a government allows torture of political prisoners or the killing of defenseless humans, it has failed to protect life or liberty. I look forward to the day when that no longer happens in our name. And I join with millions of others across America this month remembering that when a government fails to protect life, especially of those who cannot voice their objection, we should all be ashamed. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Other council comments? Paul?
First, I wanted to mention that I sold the Genworth stock that I owned. I still think that it has some significant room to go up, but despite the fact that my proportionate share of the less than $5,000 that the city spends with them amounts to 0.4 of 1/1,000,000th of 1 cent, Washington law is pretty clear, so I sold the stock. I will be out of town from the 4th of February through the 14th of February on vacation. And I want to note with some sorrow, but also a deep sense of pride, the passing of a longtime Washougal resident, Michael E. Stein, Colonel, United States Marine Corps, retired. Mike lived in the community for more than 18 years, and while he was a Marine, and of course he was always a Marine, he worked on the reorganization of the Marine Corps in the 1970s, in particular from the old, basically regimental organization to the much more modern Marine Combat Task Force. That task force contains a combat support unit, an air unit, and an infantry unit. Mike pretty much designed that support unit. Interestingly enough, when the Marine Corps in the 1980s completely redesigned its tactical manual, no changes were found necessary to Mike Stein's design of the combat support. So he was a great thinker and a great man. He passed away before Christmas, very suddenly, and I send my condolences to his family, and Washougal has lost a great American.
Molly?
Just a couple of things, neither as passionate or thoughtful as the two preceding council members' comments. However, last year, a couple of council members came to me and asked about the potential for enrollment in the city's medical benefits package. And I do have some information back from Director Cefalo. So I will send that out to everyone and turn the responsibility over to you, Mayor Guard. And that for the public is that if a majority of the council would like to be on the city's medical benefits, we would pay, of course, our portion, more than just deductible, but we would pay whatever the city's cost is. However, it would allow us to have medical benefits for those of us who do not have, who may not have medical insurance at the current time. So I'll turn that over. And just as a point of information, for 2010, I will be chairing the Regional Transportation Council Board of Directors.
Excellent.
So that is a pretty potent position. However, seeing as I've been chairing the council for a couple of months in a very turbulent time, I think it'll be a piece of cake comparatively.
Just a little vacation?
Yes.
That's terrific. Dave?
Mr. Mayor and council members, I just wanted to say thank you. It's been a long journey to get here. I'm glad to be here. I look forward to working with all of you. And I thank the voters who sent me here. Thank you very much. I also wanted to thank Councilman Russell for his willingness to forfeit his membership in the Public Safety Committee in favor of my candidacy. And the reason I support that is that it puts the membership in the committee on the basis of qualifications as opposed to tenure. And I'm in favor of anything that does that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Jennifer?
Yes, my comment is actually a question. You are working on council chambers, removing screens I see in front of council members. Is that because the screen is now easier to see, the larger screen?
And so that the public can all see us. It's an interesting view from out there.
Okay, so
It's an
it's really kind of to clear up the clutter of the desk space and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and as you can see from the dais itself, all the wiring and everything is still here. We can still hook them back up. It's kind of through the use of the screen and the capabilities of the system itself. One of the things that became painfully obvious to me is from the last 6 months sitting in the audience is that typically we pretty much just used it for the agenda, which even with my glasses on, I still couldn't read.
Right.
So in lieu of keeping that continuing for every meeting's use just for that, we've run off a few more copies on very inexpensive paper, hard copies of the agenda, so that anybody with eyes as bad as mine can still see it, but we've still got it completely rigged for presentations, everything else in there that may be needed, and it's very quick to set her back up and take her out.
Okay, and another question. We've had the video equipment for quite a while, but not working, and I'm just curious to know if it's working now, and if we get a video feed, and if that will ever be possible to get that, the meetings taped and put on the internet.
My understanding is it functions.
It's funky, and we just had it really overhauled within the last week. So we've got some updated components in. If we want to upload it on the website, we should be able to have the means to do that.
I believe IT is also looking with the advent of the new digital system and how they're capturing what we're saying now, all of those